All right, cool. So first, I just want to go through and show you kind of how to set up the project in terms of file management and stuff. So you guys kind of want to organize and find your files in here. So basically in, I think it was SL1K test shoot, this is the folder where I have all my footage. So this is, just everything we recorded. So then what I like to do is create a new folder. You can name it whatever you want, but I always just call it PP folders. Someone showed me how to do that a while ago, so I just stuck with it. So this is all your Premiere Pro folders. So I'll show you in a second, but when you create auto saves and all that, it'll create new folders. So it just separates it from your footage, which is kind of nice. So now I'll go in here. Now I got this blank folder. Oops. So now we will open Premiere Pro. So a lot of times too, I also like to just go footage. And then, drop all my footage into there. So then it's nice to keep this folder organized. So basically what happens is, if I wanted to share a project or move a project's location, this folder now, this is our whole project in here. So when you open it, it's got the footage assets and the Premiere assets. So when I'm in Premiere and I'm dragging and dropping footage, it's going to link it back to this folder.
Okay.
So then if I share this whole folder with someone, they're going to open the Premiere file and all the assets are going to be linked within this folder. Whereas if I had my footage on my desktop or in a different place and then I moved it, it would be all fucked up. So that's why it's super important that you do this. And that's why it is nice to name it obvious things, because then if you ever do want to share it, someone else can come in and they're like, okay, here's all the footage, and then you could do music or audio, is another one. Cool. So now once you get Premiere open, you're going to do a new project. And the location, this is where you're going to figure out where to save it. So that's where you come into browse. Oh, come on. My computer's been pretty slow lately. All right, cool. So now we'll select the same folder we did, and we're going to just drop this into the PP folders here. And then we'll name the project. We'll do, Super 73 SL 1000 shoot. Cool. So general, all of this stuff doesn't really matter. I don't really worry about changing that. It should just automatically set it up. And this is where all your autosave files and everything are going to be set to same as project. So that's going to save into that PP folders thing, which is good. So you really shouldn't have to touch. You shouldn't really have to touch anything in here. And then we'll create the project. Okay, cool. So so this is a window that I have set up. So what we'll do is you can go to Window, Workspaces, and this is where you can pick different workspaces. So we'll go into Editing. Cool. Actually, let's go back to Assembly. So when you open Premiere, you can do the same thing, and you should be able to see the same window. So this is going to be our project file. And basically, the project file is where you're going to put all your footage. And if I were right now to go open, in my Finder, open another Premiere file, it would open as another project in here. So you can have Premiere open and open multiple projects.
Okay.
So you're going to kind of import everything in here. This is your timeline. So we'll get into that in a second. And here is your program. Again, this will play, which, going on the timeline, we'll get there in a second. So in here, we can just do right click and do import. And then we'll go to our footage thing. And now you can just one click footage. And if you do import, it'll import the whole folder. On my Sony camera, it creates XML files with every MP4, and it doesn't import them, but it doesn't matter. You don't need it. I've never really figured it out. I don't know what they do. So it'll show you an error in a second that it couldn't do those, but that's normal. Cool. Yep, so I couldn't do those. No worries. Cool. So now you see it carried over that footage name, so it's nice. It keeps your folder. So now we got our footage. So in here, you'll be able to see all of our videos. and down here at the slider, you can adjust how big or small they are. So what's nice with that is then when you preview it, then you can, you don't even have to click or anything. You just go over like that with the highlight. So then like you can kind of just scrub through and see what's in videos. I usually like to keep them a little smaller. And then you can kind of see more footage at a time. And then here's where you can change where they're arranged by. So I like to arrange them by label, because then it does them in order, sequential order of when we filmed them. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes they'll be in a funky order. So you want to go down here, and make sure you sort by label. You can also go to this view if you just want to see the videos. This view is nice because you can see the frame rate. So sometimes when I'm shooting slow-mo and 24 frames, I want to know which ones are slow-mo. So it's nice to have that. Cool, so go back to this view. Okay, so now when I click on a video, it's going to pull up this source window. So basically in Premiere, all these things you can move. So like when I'm clicking these different tabs, like I can take my media browser and move it over here. Or I can move it down here. And then you can click these 3 lines to close. Like I don't use that. Media browser is like how to find assets if you want. So you got like your info, you know, you got these different tabs. And if you ever want to like pull up a tab that you don't see here, you just go to window. So like let's say we want to do color correction. Now I can pull up the color window and I can move it like here and then select a clip, and now I can start color correcting it. So yeah, like if you're wondering, if you don't see like an option here that you want, go to window and it should be in here. Cool. So when I open this footage thing, it's just gonna add a new tab here. So this is just the footage bin, but the source of that again is in here. So now we got our shot up. So this source, this is kind of like your cutting room table. So this is where you're just viewing the clips. And so it's really nice to do here is you can watch the whole clip. Cool, okay. So basically these are your controls, and this is how you can cut up this clip before we drag it to our timeline. So this is your in point and your out point, and this is how you play the clip, obviously. So like, let's say I want to start the clip here. That'll be my in point, and we'll highlight what's going to be dragged. Now we can play it. We can scrub through, and it's like, okay, we want to take that part of it. So that's your in and out. So now, if I want to drag this, what I can do is just click the video and drag it down into my timeline. And now it's just going to take that part I just cut. And so here you'll see up top, it switched to program. So program is always going to just play what's showing on your timeline. But then if I want to go back to that full clip, you go to source. So that's why it's nice to have program and source next to each other. So it's like, here's where my clip was, so I could go back and see, like, maybe once I'm showing in here, it's like, oh, does this clip have anything else in it that I might want to use? So you can go back to source. And then at any time, let's say your source is closed out, so let's say you're just seeing this. So let's say you have like a bunch of different clips in your timeline, and you're like, oh, I remember in this take, there was a 6th spot. How do I get to that? You can just double click on here, and then it will pull up the source for that. And then now you can go back to that full clip. So it's kind of a good way to quickly like go back and see, yeah, if you had anything else you wanted to get.
So if I wanted to go back and take something from that, can you just, are you gonna copy it and repaste it, or like how are you gonna?
Yeah, so there's a couple things you could do. So I always like to do this too. So on here, on your timeline, yeah, let me just go through the timeline real quick. So you got your tools here. We'll get into those in a second. But here you just have your video layers, and it's separated by this median line, and then all your audio layers. So, you know, V for video, A for audio. And so you can change the height of these. So I usually like to do that because then you can start to see the video layer here, and then I'll spread this out a little bit, and then it just gives you a little more view into what's happening. And so let's say, so this clip right here, think of it like this clip goes longer, right? And this is just the end point. So let's say I wanted to extend this clip. Instead of going back into the source and then like extending it and then dragging it back in, all you have to do is highlight it, and then you can just drag it longer.
Okay.
So that's an easier way of doing it.
Point longer.
Yeah, okay. And you can just do it here. So it's, you know, you can just edit right in your timeline, which is nice. Yeah, so this is kind of your cursor, which is important. We'll get into the shortcuts later, but here's your razor tool. So this is just how you're going to cut clips. An important thing is this icon, linked selection. Right now it's off, so if I select the video, it's just going to select the video. If I turn that on, that's going to link your audio and videos, so that's really handy. So you pretty much always want to have this on, because then you can just click and drag and it's always going to link
both of them
still.
together.
Because,
Okay.
right, if I accidentally do that, now it'll tell you this red warning, which tells you that they're not linked up, time, right? So I would like to have that on, because then you can just drag those around. But there's some times where you want to like manipulate it a little, you want to change the video and audio separate, and then you just turn that off. Cool. So this is, I guess I can show you how to do opacity. This is pretty cool. So this line here, you can drag up and down to define the opacity of a clip. So with this, then if you hit the point, then you can add points to change the opacity, to change over time. So then you can like,
Fade.
exactly. So then you can have it fade out. And then these video layers work just like layers in artboards. So like if I were to, let's get another clip in here first. All right, so we got that clip we might want to use. So let's say we want to cut that angle with this lower angle. So now I'm looking at the next clip we shot that day, and I can just quickly scrub through and start to see where you come out, right? So boom, let's say we want to start there, and then you come out. Boom. All right. So now we're going to drag that clip down here, and now you can see those cut together, right? And so then now, like, what I might do is like, oh, I'm not, a huge fan of how these cut together. So I want to shorten this one a little bit, and you can start to shorten these and adjust how these cut together.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Do you use that part where I saw both of them come up on the screen at the same time, so you can see like where it starts and ends?
Sometimes, yeah. So it'll show, where the last clip ends. Yes, you can use that. Cool. So let's show you how to add an effect to that. So here, we don't see effects as an option. We just see effect controls. So let's say we want to go into window then, and we'll pull up effects. So now we can add effects. And then here you'll see, like, let's say video transitions. We want to go to a dissolve, and we can add a cross dissolve between the two clips here. So now it'll cross those automatically.
Okay.
So that's like an example of one effect you can do. So cross dissolve is good. Like let's say we want to add it, we want it to dip from black at the beginning.
Yep.
Then you just do a dip to black, boom, and it'll appear. So this effect controls, this is one of the most important parts of Premiere, and this is really how you manipulate clips way more. So basically, nothing's going to come up until you select a clip. So you have to select a clip first. Once your clip is selected, it's going to give you all of your information about the clip. So it's a 1920 by 1080. That's the position of it, and then the scale. So here's where we can zoom in and out. So if you wanted to like crop in, we can zoom in, right?
Okay.
So let's say that, okay, so if you do that, right, it's just going to crop in for the entire duration of the clip. So this is where Premiere gets really sick, because you can tell it, okay, I want it to start zoomed in. So I'm going to do this. This is called, what's the name of it? Keyframing. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a keyframe. So we're going to tell it, hey, at the start, the scale should be 178. But then we want it to change and actually do a slow zoom out. So now what I can do is enter a number in here. Let's have it go back to 100%, so it's fully zoomed out. And now I can drag this point in time to the end. And then what it's going to do is slowly zoom out on the shot. So then that's how, you can add a nice little zoom out. So, it's nice to crop in at the beginning of the shot because he's far away. So it's nicer to start close. And then when you zoom out like that, it kind of gives that feeling of like establishing, where the rider is.
Yeah. Like an establishing shot?
Yep. So then let's say for this one, I think for this one we want to change it up and go from a little more zoomed in to, or we want to zoom in on this one. To kind of, so since he's coming at the camera, if we zoom in on him, it's going to kind of give us that sense of speed a little more. See that?
Yeah.
So now, I'll zoom out on this one and do a nice little zoom in. Sweet. Cool. All right, so now we got kind of our first little thing. So now you can see how to do that. This is where you can also rotate the clip. So like if something's slightly off and you want to, adjust for the horizon, this is where you can do that. And then you'll see your any opacity changes and stuff you do will show up in here too.
And I'm assuming you can edit it from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say, so you can turn this off and it will just delete the keyframes. So let's say, for example, that we wanted to do like some picture-in-picture. Then what we could do is basically you can take this clip, and this is just kind of like an artboard, right? So we can go boom, and then you can click right on this screen even, and you can just drag where this video is going to show up. And then what you can do is bring this up to the second layer, and then now, so like this is an example where like we have your two audios. So you want to move the one audio to the second line, so that way you can keep the full audio for this clip. We'll drag it over. And so now what's going to happen is, since it has these layers, it's going to show both shots at once. So now here I could come into this video now and make it smaller and bring it over here, and boom. And so that's how you can do like different picture-in-picture stuff. So right now we're operating with a 1920 by 1080 clip. So what happens is, so this is just one timeline, and in your project it's going to create this timeline. So what I like to do is come in and rename it and do like master timeline, boom, and then now it'll show up here. So now it doesn't, because it'll automatically name it whatever you put in as the footage. So there's also a video named C016, so it's really confusing if you don't rename it to know it's your timeline. So let's say I close out of this. Anytime I take a clip and just drag it into the timeline, whether it's from there, so you will just create a new timeline, and then it will match the clip settings. So basically, an important thing you want to know is how to control your sequence settings. So you can go up to sequence, click sequence settings. So if you don't have a sequence open, you won't see anything here. But then so see now, whoops, I'll go back into here. So now if I open this up, then sequence settings is open. So in here, this is where I'm going to see my frame rate and my frame size. So because that clip was 4K, it automatically adjusted the frame size here. So this is where, if we want to do Instagram, we can do 1080 by 1350, and it'll be 4:5. And then now that's going to change this sequence. So now what I can do is, let's say, it's all kind of off, right? And I don't see you in here.
Mm-hmm.
So now what you want to do is come into the effect controls. So this is a 4K video, but think of this as like a window, and the footage is much bigger behind it, right? So then now you're going to want to zoom out on that clip. And this is where you can adjust it left and right too. So like I can find myself in the clip now. Like there you are now in the clip, right? And so you can adjust with your effect controls to make sure what you want is in here. So like, yeah, but I'll skip what I was going to say for now. So yeah, so your sequence settings will always automatically get set when you drag a clip in. So keep that in mind. And then if you want to change it, sequence settings, and then your frame size, this is where you dictate that. And this is where we're going to decide if we're in 23 frames or what frame rate we're going to do. Cool. So yeah, so that's how you can do different aspect ratios for the video. Yeah, what's up?
Why do multiple timelines again? So why would it have a master timeline and then start another timeline?
Well, the only reason I did that is just to show you that it automatically captures the video settings.
Okay.
So there is a reason for that. We'll get into that, I think, at a different lesson.
Okay.
But like one example of that is like the last video we did with the SL1000 walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I synced together that 20-minute video of me doing all the lines with the audio I captured on that mic, and I synced them once. So now that whole 20-minute video, the audio is synced with my mic that I was wearing, and then I go through and cut up each section, and then I create a new timeline, and then take the chunks out of that section that are like good parts that are already synced to the audio, and then I put those in a new timeline. So then later, if I go back and I'm like, oh, was there any other good takes? that I, like maybe later I'm like, oh, I actually didn't like that take. Was there another take I could find? Then I can go back to that other timeline where it was just like my cutting room for that part.
Okay.
So like,
So
you don't, it really helps to have different timelines for organizing different things. So that way, your master timeline can stay cleaner.
Okay.
So you can kind of have like different timelines for different parts. Yeah.
Okay, I think I get it.
Cool. All right. So yeah, so that's basically how you're going to get clips into here, and you can start kind of editing your video. So let's just change these back. So a quick thing you can do, let's say I just want this to go back to the frame size. You can right click and do scale to frame size. Oh, it didn't work actually. So since it didn't work, we're going to come back in here and go back to the settings. So it's, since our sequence is 1920 by 1080, then you can come in here and just type in 1920 by 1080. And then now we know that it's the exact size of the frame again, because it's 100% scale, and the position, is our same as our sequence setting. So let's say I wanted to adjust this clip now, so we'll do the same thing. Well, I guess what we can do is you can right-click a clip and do copy, and then when you go paste attributes, when we do that, we can come in and we'll make sure that motion is selected, because it's under the motion tab here, and then we'll do paste. So now, instead of having to repeat that process of going to effect controls, you can just copy and paste it over. So then once you make that change, it's a lot faster to do. Another thing you can do in this right click is the speed duration. So this is where you can come in and change it to 50% speed if we wanted to slow a clip down. And then again, you can just right click, speed duration, and we can set that to 100%. Another thing you can do is reverse. So that's a quick way if you want to flip a clip so it's playing in reverse.
Okay.
Go to speed duration and then reverse speed, and you can click that. So now it's back to 100%. Okay, let's get one more video in here. So we'll come in, okay, then let's say we want to get, some of this video. Select our in point, select our out point, and we'll drag this in. Cool. Okay, so now we got, somewhat of a timeline together. Let's add some music. So now, I don't want to add music to my footage bin because I already got different stuff in there. So we'll go back into here. We'll do import. And then now, I'll go in. I think I have some music in here somewhere. Little music. All right, cool. All right, so we'll import this song. So now when I click on a song, instead of showing the video, it's going to show the audio waveforms. So now what I can do is same thing. I can start an in and an out point, but I'm just going to do it at the beginning because I want it to start right at the beginning. And now I'll take this song and drag it in. So like right here, so I can't really hear the song. So what I can do is anytime is you can click M, and that's going to mute that track level. So if I just click M, then that's going to let me hear the song better. And then let's say, okay, that audio is a little too loud over the music. Just like the opacity, you're going to click this line, and that's going to adjust your volume of that track. So let's say, for example, okay, I want that to be a little quieter. Let's see how that sounds. And that's a better mix. Now I can hear the music more. Let's say I want to fade in my sound. So now I can go to, whoops. So I have this tool, and I can go to my pen tool, and now I can fade in that track. And then I'm going to go back to this tool, and boom, now that audio is going to fade in there. So boom, now we got that. We're liking that. And then, cool. All right, so let's say that's our clip. So now we can take the cut tool, and we're just going to cut off the end of that track. So boom. Okay, so now got our music. See, now we're going to adjust that music to be the same level, and you can see by the line, I want it to be right down there. So now all these audios are at the same level. Okay, so right there, I think I heard an opportunity, right? The video cut just before the beat. So let's say, when you listen, so you can hear the beat drops right there. So now I'm going to look down here. I can make this a little bigger so I can see it better. but now I can visually see that's where my beat drop is. So now I can come in here and I just want to shorten that clip, and then I can go in here and I can either extend the clip like that, and now it's just going to show more of the beginning of that clip.
Right.
But let's say that I didn't want to do that. Let's say I wanted to start at the same spot I already decided. You can right click and do what's called a ripple delete. And so what that does is it just deletes the spot in between clips in your timeline. So we'll ripple delete that, and then now when we play it back, now we can see it cut, right? So it's a little cooler now that it cuts on the beat. Cool, so I saw one more opportunity. So like here, you can hear, that'd be another opportunity right on that beat right there. So we're gonna come in here, and shorten that, come in here, and boom. So let's say, you come by, and right now, since I just changed that cut, I liked having that car go by after you. But we're not showing that. So now what I want to do is at the beginning, we're actually not showing the rider for very long. So now I can come in and boom, I could start right there, right? So now let's shorten the beginning of this clip, pull it back, and now we can shorten the end. So now at the beginning, you're seeing me a little sooner, which is nice. And then boom, and now I'm getting that car that I liked right after. So now boom, now, I like that a little better. Cool. So now let's say, now I'm happy with this. Now what we're going to do is export our video. So if you have everything matched right up at the beginning here, it's going to start playing right at the beginning. If you wanted to leave a little gap, so let's say here, this is a good tool too. So when I select this clip, if I want to move it back, it's going to override that clip and it's going to leave the music and everything. So this tool right here is a really nice tool. So when you click this, it's basically where you click, it's going to take all the assets on all the lines to drag back. So you can drag that back. So let's say we want to put just a little gap at the beginning. So it just has a tiny bit of black right before it starts. And then let's, add in a little fade to that video. So now it starts black. It's got a nice little intro, right? Cool. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to click I on the keyboard, and that just means your in point. So I could set it here. If I do this, it's not going to give me that little bit of black space here. It's just going to start right on the video. So drag that here, so make sure we have that little bit of space. And then now what I'm going to do is set the end point. Boom. So now, in the same way I selected my source and I was dragging the timeline, now when I set these in and out points, that's what I'm going to want to export. So now once I have my in and out points for the portion of the timeline I want to export, I'm going to go to File, Export Media. And then now what it's going to do, so you always want to do format, always do H.264. That's what we're always going to export in, H.264. You shouldn't have to change any other settings. If you want to scrub through and see what's in the video, just to double check and make sure you rendered the right area, you can do that here. But you shouldn't really have to change anything. Again, it's going to show our dimensions here. And then output name, this is where we're going to change it. So we could put, Super 73 Ride. And then we're going to want to take that and put it into our test shoot folder. And now we'll save it. So now it's going to save with that name, and it's going to show our output path to that folder. And then now we'll just click export. Cool. So that'll be how you export a video. So really the only thing is just double check that it's H.264. So I'm going to cancel this export. Yeah, so I think this is a pretty good intro tutorial. Just one other tip I'm thinking of here is this is going to be your playback resolution. So it's really nice to keep this at like a quarter or an eighth quality. So it's going to be it's going to have better playback on your computer. You can do it at full quality if you want to check some different stuff. But yeah, at 1/4 quality or 1/8 quality is going to be good. Yeah, so now we have our exported timeline. So then what I like to do, let's say, I exported version 1 and I want to come back and keep working on it, then I usually prefer to just drag this back to the beginning. And then now I can work on it and I'll be waiting till later to do that in and out point again for the export. Yeah, so now, you just go through the footage and I would just go through, clip by clip and start to pull out, clips that I'm going to want. Cool. All right.